What if we've been mistaken? What if there is no choice, no inner mastery, no free will, no land of the free and home of the brave? What if everything we've been told about personal freedom, responsibility, independent decision making, and human autonomy is just a collection of myths that have been passed down over the centuries? Author Marty McMorrow thinks so. And he envisions powerful personal benefits from a radically different view of ourselves. He's written about it in his new book titled Spectating. Tell me a bit about yourself.
I'm lucky. When I was a youngster growing up, I had the opportunity to see Jimi Hendrix and go to South Vietnam before I was 21 years old. I had a 3.5 decade career as a behavioral researcher, clinician, designer of human service programs for people who are considered to be disabled.
So, why have you written this book?
One of the biggest reasons is that I was terrifically moved by B.F. Skinner's Beyond Freedom and Dignity, and actually everything that B.F. Skinner wrote. But Beyond Freedom and Dignity, in my opinion, left the door open for some more interpretation of what science and what behavioral science in particular means in our lives.
So, what does behavioral science, or science more generally, have to tell us about the things we think, feel, and do?
Well, through a long history of learning, um, it appears that humans have been educated to believe that their thoughts and feelings and actions are up to them to decide on. That they can exercise free will, that they can choose to do and think and feel whatever they want to feel, and that those things are somehow not connected to external causality. I believe those things are mistaken, and that when we view things differently, and science tells us to view things differently, we can see the world in a different way.
What do these premises tell us about ourselves, our existence?
It tells us that our self is much smaller than we've considered it to be in the past. If it's not autonomous, if it's not free, if it doesn't have all the power that we have given it. But the good news in that is that science tells us that our self is intimately connected to everything around us, and that connection is the basis of what I call spectating.
So, what's this thing called spectating?
Spectating is a practice. It's a set of practices, and it is also the result of those practices when they are effective in helping us recognize the awesome pervasiveness of causality in our lives. The first practice is called orienting, and basically when we orient, we just look around, usually place ourselves in a serene environment, look around for movement in that environment, and then postulate causes for the movements that we see. So orienting can help us recognize causality in the world around us. A second practice is called immersing. Basically, during immersing, we orient while we are in movement. So we may walk on a crowded street, we look for movement around us, and we speculate related to the causes of the movements that we see. A third activity is called spacing, and I like spacing because it really demonstrates that movement takes place without thinking. Which to me we've overestimated the value of thinking in our lives. I believe strongly that movement takes place without thinking. When we're driving a car, people have had that experience a lot of times, where they're driving a car and then they suddenly realize they haven't been thinking about driving for 50 miles. Very, very complex movements can happen without thought. The last spectating activity that to me is the most exciting of them all is called positioning. And when we position, we can take ourselves into a serene space like the woods. We can, like I said before, you can do it in the middle of the shopping mall. And basically, what you do when you position is you stop and you ask yourself the question, I wonder what will move me next. And you wait to be moved. So the four activities, orienting, immersing, spacing, and positioning, are all activities that I describe in this book, and how you can learn how to do these things.
Are there benefits from viewing ourselves in this way, this different kind of way?
Well, certainly there are. Spectating, the practice by itself can produce absolutely remarkable senses of exhilaration, thrill, connectedness with the things that move us. And the experience of being moved by all of the causes and external events that are taking place around us can lead us to a remarkable sense of connectedness with the world. It can also reduce our senses of guilt, that we've made mistakes, that we blamed ourselves for doing certain things, that we blamed other people for doing things, for making judgments about the things that people do. It can impact unwanted emotions like guilt, like sadness, like depression, and recognize that those things are learned behaviors, very much like everything else that we've learned. So the results can be thrilling in spectating, and they can also be very valuable in our day-to-day lives.
Wow, fascinating. So, I understand that Spectating is going to be available in a few months. Where can people get that book and others you've written?
At my website, martymcmorrow.com.
All right. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.